Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Firetime Network Power Hour. Grant, I'm excited for this. It's been a crazy day, and this is going to be an awesome break from it.
Yeah, no, I look forward to these, Tim. I am extremely excited to talk about the Heartbeat Report and really just excited to kind of escape the whirlwind of business and everything that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we jump into it today, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. But first off, we were just chatting offline before starting this that, all over the place, businesses are just getting pummeled. Labor is harder to find than ever. People are going down left and right with COVID. There's a lot of difficulty in doing business right now. And so it's awesome that you're tuning into this. And I think that today's gonna be really valuable for helping people take control, right?
Oh, no question. I mean, we all rely on our gut and have to so often. And, something that in talking about the heartbeat report today, if you embed some type of heartbeat report, it doesn't have to be exactly what we're talking about, but some type of metric on a weekly basis that is telling you how you're doing, it's going to set you up for specifically these times. It can be kind of a guide or a North Star, sort of, so to speak. And you're going to have to make decisions quick, fast, and without a lot of information. But these metrics, this heartbeat report, is a way that you can be in touch with your business, but not be in all parts of your business. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, 100%. So, we started Power Hour. I don't know how many we've done now. This might be the fourth or fifth one, but the intention behind it is that we want to be proactive together and really try to spend this time dedicated to helping, anybody that needs it run their business. We believe that true power comes from pouring yourself out for others. And I feel like that's one thing that this community has really embodied, and that's what we want to be true here. So this is, going to be authentic conversation. Grant, we have we have a couple bullet points in front of us, but we don't have this scripted out. So we are going to just be riffing on the idea of a heartbeat report and taking questions and comments as well. If you have pushback or feedback, or you want clarification on any of the things that we're talking about, just enter it into the comments. We're broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and we can see those comments right here. So we'll make sure to address that. Now, okay, as we get going, Grant, every single Power Hour, we have a giveaway. And this is no different. This giveaway is what? Aquafire Blue.
Yeah, it is. I would call it teal. Aquafire Blue is cool too. 20-ounce Rambler by Yeti. If you don't know, they keep ice forever. They keep your coffee warm all day, and they are outstanding. And we've been sending these out to someone that either answers a question or submits something in the chat. And today will be no different. We'll have this in the giveaway, and we'll try to get it sent out in the next day or so.
Yeah, and I love that graphic covered up your face. That was kind of funny. It was like you're drinking out of the Yeti. And seriously, I was talking to my friend Tim in Wisconsin, and he was saying, I think it was from the last Power Hour, his mind was blown that ice cream never melts in it. And he's like, it doesn't get any better than this.
It doesn't. Has he tried it? Did he say he tried it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he said it was just a life-changing experience.
Oh, it is. And that, like, me and Tim need to talk, because when you go through it, you just can't believe it. But the people that are listening to me talk about it right now probably think I'm crazy, but it is honestly an amazing experience to have your ice cream stay cold the entire time.
Okay, well, here's how people are going to win the giveaway. So the theme for today is building a heartbeat report for your company. And the way that you're going to win that Yeti Rambler is the first person to share in the Firetime Network one metric, oh gosh, and I even misspelled it, that they rely on, not reply on, that they rely on. Okay, so the first person to share one metric that they rely on to run their business. That's what today is going to be about. And we want to see that inside the Firetime Network. And what we'll do is we'll be checking that periodically throughout the show, and we'll announce the winner at some point here. Okay, Grant, let's go ahead and jump in. So last time in the Power Hour, we were going to do the 10-step execution process. We got derailed because an unnamed person baited me into doing a sales demo midstream. And we only got through, 6 of the steps. And today's packed. We may not get through everything, but we will give you everything that we have. Let's start with why does every company need a heartbeat report? We're going to skip what it is. But let's talk about why does a company need it? And then we're going to go into some specifics, okay?
Yeah. Well, we're all, I mean, and really, a department could need it. A company could need it. It really just depends on your situation and who's listening to us. And that's the cool thing about what a heartbeat report is. It's your heartbeat report. Like, what moves you? What do you need to know constantly that tells you how your business is doing, or how your team's doing, or how your department's doing? Why you need to do it is because it guides you. It gives you information that allows you to make the decisions that sometimes you're ill prepared to make. And over time, it teaches you the signs in which your business are telling you whether things are good or things maybe are headed in a direction that aren't so good. So why you need it is simply because it's what you've been looking for. And you need to understand what metrics guide your business, both in a lead major type of capacity and leg major type of capacity, so that you have a
Yeah.
full understanding of what your business is doing. The nice thing
Yeah.
is that we have no time, Tim. No one has no time. So once you put this heartbeat report into motion, with very little time and effort, you have an understanding and a heartbeat of your business or your team or your department. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic thing for
Yeah.
anybody that is looking to try to get on top of running their business.
Well, I think that for many companies, they operate by feel. And at the beginning, that's all that
Totally.
you have. And I would say many business owners do have a feel of their business when the company is of a certain size. But as they start to grow, as you start to hire people and make more sales, deal with more customers and more problems, I mean, I'm sorry, you can't operate a business based on feel anymore because it gets too big. And so I would say in our industry, there's many companies that have grown beyond the point of being able to run their business based on feel, but the owner is still operating that way. And so we've
Mhm.
talked about this before. Like when you operate based on feel, you might have a salesperson that came in late 2 days that week. And all of a sudden, you'd get mad about it. And you start thinking about everything they're doing wrong. And, this person's not doing their job right. Well, maybe if you had a scoreboard, you'd see that this person leads your team in sales made. They write up more estimates than anybody else, and they make 30 follow-up calls to customers a week. Now, it doesn't excuse the late behavior, but all of a sudden it's not an issue that you got to fire them because they just don't know how to work hard. It's a conversation about, you're an A player and you set an example for other people. What could you do if you started to take this more seriously? I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can take that, but when you operate based on feel, it I don't know. I mean, I think it sets up a few things. It sets you up to not be able to retain people because often your feel isn't accurate when the company gets to a certain size. And I think number two, it puts the burden only on you. You're the only one that has the feel of the company. So you're the only one that can make a decision. When you start to use a heartbeat report that is ultimately shared with a leadership group of people in your company, you have an accurate understanding of what needs to be done, but you also can share that load. It's not just on you.
100%. For some of the things that you were saying, Tim, on the feel. So I believe feel is always a part of what a leader has to do. They have to sometimes go off feel, but you need metrics to balance that out. We're not saying don't go off feel ever, because you're going to have to look at these numbers and you're going to have to go off feel
Yeah.
still sometimes. But I can't tell you I think we developed a heartbeat report in 2012. And so in the last 10 years, I can't tell how many times we thought something was a certain way because that's how we felt it was, or that's what we remembered, and it wasn't. And what
Yeah.
numbers do is they kind of balance you out and give you a baseline that then allows your feel to go one way or the other with a bunch of information backing that up. So feel is not lost, and we're not telling you to not utilize your gut or feel, but the metrics really truly are indicators you have to take into account over and over to have better feel. To be, to be
when
honest.
when you said that, Grant, I wrote this down. I wrote down, what story do you believe? And I guess this is something too. So for people that know me, I am not naturally a metrics person. I do a lot of things based on feeling. Um, but what's true with that also is that my feelings can lead me astray very easily. And metrics do not in and of themselves give you the perfect rationale to make any decision you make. What you said, Grant's really true, that feel is a part of it. But without any type of metrics or any type of a heartbeat report, the only story I have to believe is informed by me and my own experience. And very often that will lead me astray. When I can look at a dashboard, all of a sudden I'm seeing other pieces of the story. When combined with my experience, that is a story that is much more likely to be true than just myself. I hadn't put the pieces together like that until you said it.
Well, it's the emotion. You're taking the emotion out of it. When we're in the whirlwind of our business, we're emotional one way or the other, good, bad, ugly. We're emotional, and emotions drive our decisions, and they drive us in the wrong direction. You have to take the emotions out of it. And the only way to do that is to have a dashboard of metrics
Yeah.
that tell you truly what's going on. And then, of course, you take that feel, that emotion, what's going on with that installer, what's going on here into account, along with that baseline of unemotional metrics that tell you truly what's going on.
Yeah. So, okay, I want to do this, and I'll throw this question out there just in case anybody wants to type it into the chat. But I would like to know, does anybody that's watching this have any kind of a heartbeat report or any kind of like a regular metric system they use for their business? And if you don't, what what would you want it to do for you? And Grant, I'm going to ask you, what does having a heartbeat report do for you on an ongoing basis?
Well, so for me, like, it gives me the ability to understand each department within my business, and it gives me the few key metrics that tell me how is it going, and how it tells me how it's going now is that I constantly use comparables. So one driving force in our business for the last 6, 7 years has been installation revenue per week. And it's something that I look to beat the previous year, same week, every time. And so I look at a heartbeat report and I see, let's say $125,000 in installation that week. Well, our team knows that. We shoot for 140, 150. We make goals based on that, and we try to beat that every year. Now, that's just a simple top line indicator that doesn't give you everything you need to know. But man, if you know each and every week the previous year that you're beating it or close to, that you're on the right track. And so little things like that really truly help you make decisions, know how you're doing. And then if you just add in how many crews you're working at that time, how many installations you have, and how far out you are, all of a sudden you have a mix of metrics that tells you if you need to add an installation team or not. Because if
Gosh,
you're
that's so
doing
good.
$130,000 in that week, but you're out 12 weeks, guess what? You could be doing more because you can
Yeah.
add an installation crew. And that tells you, okay, this season I'm behind the 8 ball. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make plans to grow a lead right now in the season. Let's say we're in January and you're behind, you're way out. You should have 3-man crews. You should be training your assistants. You should be training your leads, not for this year, for next year. We need these metrics to make those decisions. So it's not just about one. And at first, when you go over these heartbeat reports, sometimes they're a little empty. You have to stick with them because it's about data first, then it's about reporting, and then understanding and making changes.
Yeah. I mean, what you just outlined with the installation metrics, we're going to dive deep on this. That's going to be what the rest of this time is about, is diving deep on some specific metrics. But Danny's comment here is great. Honestly, this is one thing that's missing from our meetings. We have generic numbers, but don't dive deep enough. And what I would say is that that's okay because you got to start somewhere. So you do start
Exactly.
with some generic numbers. And I think that it's the consistency over time. You can start to go deep as you build and build and build. But many companies, because they don't have the perfect metric system, or they don't have a way to capture absolutely everything, they do nothing. So Danny, I would just take heart. But yeah, I mean, the fact that you have those generic numbers, you can really start to tighten the screws, and we'll try to give you some ideas here. Grant, I think before we go in, we got to talk about lead versus lag, and then about the difficulty of this. And if it's cool, I'm thinking I want to get to metrics. So I want to burn through this. So if can I take lead versus lag, and then you talk about just how this is
Please
so
do.
difficult? Okay.
Yes, you'll explain it so much better than I. So I think that you'll explain it very well and we can talk about kind of some different metrics that go along with that.
Okay. So I first heard about this term from a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution, and it is an incredible book. It's by Chris McChesney and Stephen. R. Covey. It's Dr. Covey's son. I think maybe it's Sean Covey. Anyway, in this book, it talks about the difference between a lead measure and a lag measure. A lag measure is a measure that's important but lags behind. So, how much margin did we make in the month of December? Well, it's January 13th, and I'm guessing for most companies, you might just be getting that number now. So it takes 2 weeks to 3 weeks to figure that out. Now, it's important to know how much margin we made in December, but by the time I get it, we can't do anything about it. It's done. It's a lag measure. Lag measures are important, but by themselves, they won't change behavior. So a lead measure is looking at the lag you want to achieve, margin per month, and deciding what are the behaviors that right now in the moment we can do that will move the needle on the lag. And there's a lot of examples of this, but it's essentially you're making a strategic bet that if we do these one or two behaviors over and over and over, week in, week out, week in, week out, it will move the needle on the lag measure. And Grant, I was going to share my company's scoreboard real quick. So
Yeah.
my business Wi-Fi it's a software company, so it's going to be a little bit different than some of the heartbeat stuff that we're going to get into. But this is an example of our scoreboard, and I'll show you how the lead and the lag work together. So most of the numbers on this are accurate. I actually fudged Sam's follow-ups for the week because I haven't gotten that report yet. I'll be getting it in a couple days.
Come on, Sam.
But a couple things you'll see. I know. A couple things you'll see. So we have 3 goals. The first goal is we want to retain 95% of our established partners for the year. Our second goal is that we need to sign up new partners. And then finally, we need to complete features. So those are the 3 goals that we have. So, retain 95% of our established partners. If we think about this, we're measuring this year over year. So I'm not going to know until the end of 2022 whether we did this or not. So what we have lead measures. And the first lead measure is going to be partner phone calls. Our goal is that we connect with 2 partners per week for a legitimate in-person phone call. The second metric is that we do 32 partner audits per month. And we believe that by auditing their platform, proactively sending them a report on it, and making these personal phone calls, we think that will lead to us retaining 95% of our partners year over year. Now, you'll notice on the scoreboard, we have a green check mark if things are going really well, and we have a sad poop emoji if we're off pace. So we're into the second week of January. And, our team member, Matt, who is in charge of this, he specifically took some time off. So his metrics are at 0 for this. So that's okay. But looking at this, we know that if we execute on the 2 behaviors down below, we think it will lead to success up above. I'm going to show you another one real quick. This is for sales. And you'll notice on each of these metrics, we have it owned by a specific team member. So this says owned by Sam. So if you look at this, our goal for the year is that we sign up 44 new partners. Now, the way that it breaks down throughout the year is in January, our monthly goal was 2. If you look at the graph, we can see that we've hit the goal. We've gotten 2 signups. That's great. But the lead measures that will get us to these signups are down below. And it is booking 2 demos per week. So you can see, right, week 1, Sam booked 1 demo. Week 2, he booked 2. Over time, we believe that behavior over and over and over again will absolutely move the needle in signups. And the second one is going to be follow-up calls. So, the goal is that Sam does 10 a week. He knocked out 15 in the first week. I actually just plugged in 10 before this because I think that's about where he's at, but I don't actually know. But you can see that it lets us know, are we on pace for the month or not? So we're on pace for follow-ups in this, semi-fictitious scenario, and we're off pace for demos. So I know, okay, I'm 1 demo behind. So in week 3, I need to make that up. And we've met our goal for January, which is terrific. So it means that, I'm working for the future. But that's just an example of how lead and lag can work together. Does that make sense, Grant?
Yeah. I mean, Tim, do you want to go into how you establish your goals and how they work backwards to your lead and lag measures there? Because I think that's something that we don't want to miss
Yes.
an explanation of what's going on there.
Yeah. So just in our case, what we looked at is that as a company, in order for us to have the sustainability that we want, pay people what is fair, and be making enough money to have reserves in the bank to build out features, we had to grow to 44 new subscriptions this year. So that was the mark. We were like, hey,
Yep.
this is where the company needs to go. Then what we did is we just broke down the whole year. And actually, we started looking at events. So we looked at, okay, we're going to go to the HPBA trade show. We're going to go to the UBG Buyers University, and we're going to go to some other different events throughout the year. And we just looked at, based on our experience, what's our goal for how many customers that we're going to sign up there, right? So that was a way to fill out a lot of how we try to get to the 44. And then the rest
Yeah.
of it was, okay, how much downtime am I going to have this month? So our goal is X, our goal is Y. And
Yeah.
so that was how we backed into it, was looking at it, what do we need to achieve for the year, looking at our calendar, and then ending up where we were.
Awesome. There's a lot of different ways we can look at this. And I think of like people like Danny and, starting and Danny, I'm not necessarily speaking to you, but I'm looking at your comment, thinking of you, just you changing tires on install vehicles and you replacing parts on it and being stretched in so many different ways. And when we start talking about all these things, I get overwhelmed just knowing of all the things that I'm trying to help with in our business and cover right now. There's certain metrics that you follow right now that can act as basic lead measures and lag measures. And there's some things that Tim's going to talk about, like in backlog. And there's a few things that I just want to mention to anybody that's looking to just get an understanding of where they're at in their business with, what's the next 2 to 3 months hold for us? How do we know that easily? And how are we doing in comparison to how that projected? It seems complicated, but it really isn't. So what I would suggest and what I did is 10 years ago, when we had this heartbeat report, I didn't really have access to the information to understand the business like I should have or needed to. And that's just a part of it. What we did is we just went off two different metrics all the time. And I learned that they told me a lot about what was going on and how I did. So like the first one is just sales. And sales is deposits, will calls, any number that pops up on your sales report that day. It might be incomplete. You might not have completed the installation part of it. It might be a bid, but that tells you how you're doing 2 months from now, 3 months from now, simply because over time it's saying this is what we did last year at this time, and we're on a downward pace from that. We're actually trending down or we're trending up. The second part of that is invoice numbers. What did you actually invoice out? What was delivered? What was will called? What was installed? Those two numbers, upfront sales, deposits, what is coming in and what are you grabbing for future installs, deliveries, and will calls? And then what did you actually will call, install that month, that day? If you make it a habit to constantly look at that one lead measure and constantly look at that one lag measure, you're all of a sudden going to realize that you have $700,000 in backlog. You're all of a sudden going to realize that you have 2.5 months of business already built up. You have a sense of security that's different. And then, man, if you're selling $150,000 a week, but you're only installing 100,000, your backlog's going to shoot up through the roof and really fast. And those two simple indicators tell you give you a lead understanding of what's happening and what's going to come, and tells you how you're doing. So it doesn't have to be super complicated. You'll get to goal-oriented lead measure and lag measure statistics, but honestly, deposits and sales and invoice numbers can be a great starting point.
Yeah. Okay. So Grant, we're 25 minutes in. I want to break to start talking specific metrics, and maybe we'll get back to, because the theory is important. You have to understand why this is so important. And I think at the end of the day, you can choose to drive your car with a blindfold on, or you can choose to drive your car by looking through the front windshield or the back windshield. I prefer most of the time to look through the front windshield. Periodically, I'll glance up at the back, because that's very helpful. And that's what it is, right? Your lead measures are the front windshield. Your lag measures, you're glancing up at the rear view mirror. That's very important. But do not drive with a blindfold. Okay, that's the analogy. Grant, let's jump in and start talking specific metrics. You want to go into installs?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go over what we have in our heartbeat report for installation, then we can kind of talk about why. You can ask any questions. So, uh, I kind of went through them a little bit earlier. So, I will always talk about what we installed per revenue and units for the week. So, we
So
want to
just to
know what we
clarify,
did.
just to
Yep.
clarify, this week we installed 15 fireplaces, and the
For
revenue
a
from that
hundred
was whatever,
X amount.
$100,000. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Then we will also put on this scoreboard how many installations do we have currently on the schedule. So in this report that I'm looking at, it's 123. Right below that is crews. How many crews do we have? 4. Then the bid schedule. How many estimates do we currently have on the schedule right now? 17. And then services, which we don't need to get into. And then installation, we have how many weeks out is that? So we have crew number 1 out 7 weeks, crew number 2 out 9 weeks, crew number 3 out 9 weeks, and crew number 4 out 4.5 weeks. That's our new construction installation crew. You don't need all these metrics. I would say that the key ones are units installed per week. I love that number because that really drives business. And if you can incentivize more units per week, your revenue will grow. And I love how many installations by how many crews by how many weeks, and we quantify out by how many weeks because we have a threshold. We are beyond the weeks that we want right now, and we have to actively work to pull the schedule a little bit closer to us so we could take advantage of more business.
Yeah. And one thing I know you've talked about too is this is a lag measure, but is how many incompletes did we have from the previous week?
Oh, 100%. So that's down on the service side. We, if you have 15 installs, like we referenced earlier, we track urgent incompletes. And that's that week, how many incomplete jobs do we have? And all installations that were planned to be complete would be considered an urgent incomplete. And we work diligently to finish those jobs however we possibly can. So, with the incomplete, it tells you what you're doing and what your completion rate is, and it's also giving you as the leader the tools to mine possibly those negative reviews, like get those negative reviews buttoned up. And what I mean by that, I'm sorry, I'm kind of ahead of myself. What I mean by that is you're taking care of the problems that lead to negative reviews, because urgent incompletes are when you're promising completion, something happens and you can't complete it. You need to work diligently and be on that like no tomorrow to get that completed.
Well, let's jump in and get super practical. So you just gave us a number of metrics, and it can seem daunting, but if you, and maybe you do the scheduling, maybe you have a partner or someone in the company that does the scheduling, but how long does it take to figure out how many installs do we have in the books? I mean, honestly, not that long. You go to the scheduler and say, hey, can we just count up how many jobs are in the books? And literally, I mean, what? I mean, 45 seconds. You
Yep.
just count it.
That's what we
Okay,
do. I mean, it's on the
35
calendar.
jobs in the books.
Yep.
When your installers get done for the day on their paperwork, they should be marking if the job is 100% complete, if it's a planned incomplete. So an example of this would be a new construction job where the decorative front's not going to go out for 6 months until the house gets finished up. That's a planned incomplete. Or an urgent incomplete. We planned on finishing it, something came up, and we were not able to. If you know that every single day when your installers come back, well, at the end of the week, you just look at all your paperwork. Okay, so looks like we completed, 10 jobs and we had 2 urgent incompletes, whatever it is. These metrics really are not hard to get. It seems daunting when you look at it all at once, but it's not that hard. Same thing, Grant. I mean, how do you guys track how far out you are? You just literally look at the calendar and just look?
Yeah, I mean, we are as manual as it gets. And I remember when I started to go in 6 or 7 years ago, started to look at metrics and started to say, like, how do you get these? I have my uncle. He has Mid Columbia Forklift. He runs a company that has 5 stores all through Washington State, $50 million company. And I'm talking to him saying, how do you pay out on these things if you don't have these metrics? He's like, you have to have the metrics, and you have to customize the metrics for your business. And that's a manual situation. You need to have a support staff. You need to have people that support, and it's worth every penny. And that's really kind of what we leaned into, is we manually create our own, track our own metrics. So
Yeah.
it's just literally like this thing filled out,
Yeah.
and it goes into an electronic spreadsheet, but everybody has their hands in it. Each department submits theirs, and then we put it into the one spreadsheet. And it's been our end all be all for the last 10 years. And really, after the first year, it didn't take a ton of time to put together, but it does. And a stumbling block is putting it together for the first time, because half of us don't know where to find that information. It's really
Yeah.
important to include the people in those departments in finding the information, and then just have a standing date that everybody turns in that information, and it becomes surprisingly easy, even though manual, and you have to get it yourself.
I'm glad you said that about including other people, because it is daunting when it's just you. But there are people in your company that have these numbers. I mean, the installation numbers that you just talked about, whoever does the scheduling, I mean, if you get 7 minutes with that person, they could get that for you easily. The thing that I think about too is in when I've run sales teams over the last number of years, and we do this at Wi-Fi as well, is I require a weekly report. And actually, Grant, this came from you. I've told this story on the podcast before, but we were talking one time, this is years ago, and I was frustrated at some team members that I had, and you said something like, Tim, you're accountable to your team. You invest in all this time and resources and tools for them. How are they accountable to you? And I was like, what do you mean? And you're like, well, what are they giving you to show that they're doing their job, to show where they need help? And that got me started on a weekly report, and it's changed everything. So for the last, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years that I was working for Fireside in retail, we required this, and it was a game changer. And at Wi-Fi, we do the same thing. So the weekly report, you could do this for your install coordinator, right? So every week, the last day of the week, whether that's Friday or Saturday, just have them give you a report. And it can be really simple. How many installs are in the books? How many weeks out is each crew? How many completes do we have last week? How many incompletes do we have? And then just have a section of like anything else that I should know about. That's terrific, because now you don't have to go and get that. Maybe for the first couple times you can meet and help that person figure out how to do this, but you can kind of set that and forget it. In a second, we're going to dive into some sales numbers, because I get really nerdy about this stuff, and I think it's awesome. But you can do the same thing with sales. You can give it to your sales team and say, hey, okay, by the end of every week, can you give me this and this and this? And then what you can do on Monday morning is compile the reports, update the scoreboard, and then you can use it to run the company or to present in your leadership meeting, and your team can talk about it.
Yep. I want to address Danny's comment real quick before we move on sales.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Danny, I totally can sympathize, and like, it just like, it like, I got emotional reading your comment, because I know exactly how difficult it is as a leader to hold people accountable, the same people you're trying to inspire to do better work. And it's really difficult. Like, that is like, I think the definition of the hardest part of being a leader is holding accountable while building up and inspiring. You have to kind of think outside the box. And this is where I tell you support staff and people in the office are absolutely crucial. So I think specifically, and I'm going to go through this real quick and we can talk about it later offline. But when I think about holding my installation team accountable, I thought about how helpless I felt when I first started this business, and how I didn't understand how I could manage quality control and not be there, and how I could make sure paperwork was done right each and every time, but never be there. How do I make sure that we're responsive to the customers and know exactly what's going on when paperwork sometimes takes a while to turn in? Those are all things that like we have to figure out how to hold accountable in the easiest possible way. And so things like a quality control report where they're expected to turn in their pictures after their job, and certain pictures every time they turn them into one person. That person always is reporting that next, that whether they did it or not. And then you sit in your meeting like you guys have, and you say, Ed, you only got 2 out of the 6 installs of pictures. I need these pictures so that if a customer calls and has questions that I can answer these. Your score is 22%. You put it up on a public scoreboard. They never want their score to be 22%. they will turn in the pictures the next time. I guarantee it. If you ask them how often they turn in pictures, they're going to say 75%, 80% of the time. But if you actually track it, it's less than half the time. You have to track it and then put stipulations like, we need it 95% or better. And all of a sudden, if you're tracking it, putting it on a scoreboard at a meeting, you're holding them accountable without any emotions. You don't have to be the bad guy. There's other things like the email and marking it incomplete. When they send the pictures, they might as well mark the job complete or incomplete. And if it's unplanned or planned incomplete, allows the salesperson and team to respond right away before they're even home. I can go into that more and more, but that's how metrics can help you be a leader and inspire and allow them to win because they're doing that right, and also hold them accountable at the same time.
Yeah, that's really good, Grant. I think too, a lot of it is just painting the picture of how they will win when you meet the metrics, right? So
Yep.
maybe it's that, your installers want to get paid more. Perfect. We have to meet this minimum threshold of
Yep.
units, and then I'll give you an extra $50 per unit above that you can get week in and week out, right? That's a great way to incentivize pay. Another thing could be we want to start offering healthcare. We can't do that until we meet these metrics. There's a lot of different ways you can spin this.
100%.
All right. Can we talk sales?
I guess.
Buckle up. We might be here for a couple hours.
I know. Prepare.
So for anybody that is watching right now, if you want to, feel free to put in the comments, just anything with sales, whether it's a question about how to measure, what to measure, again, how to inspire behavior, and we can try to answer that. But for me, it goes back to the lead versus lag. There are a couple of metrics that I believe absolutely will move the needle in sales. And I'm going to throw a few of them out. I think that the first one is measuring your door swings. I think that measuring door swings is the single most important metric of a company that's starting out. Because, Grant, we've talked about this before, how metrics have to have a comparable. If metrics are just metrics, okay, what do they mean, right? Okay, hey, we sold whatever, $150,000 last month. Okay, what's that mean? I have no idea. Is it okay? But if I know how it was compared to last month or last year, or again, if I know how we need to get to $1 million to get this goal for everybody, now the 150,000 that month is put in context. So metrics must have a comparable. That's the first thing. So when it comes to sales, your foot traffic is your comparable. So when it comes down to it, what's your team's close rate? A lot of people talk about raising close rates. I don't give a flying hoot about a close rate if I don't know how many people they talk to.
Exactly.
I mean, I really don't. And so foot traffic has got to be the beginning of it. There's a lot of ways to do it. I would recommend just a manual, little hand tracker where you just literally mark off how people come in. And there's digital solutions. Grant, you guys use Lobby Central, and I know that works really well. But start out simple. Like literally just have someone just put a check mark next to everybody that comes in. The next metric, once I know the foot traffic, is I want to know how many new estimates were written up. This can be difficult to track, but there are ways to do it. If you want to ask specifics, I'd be happy to jump into it. But I believe in a retail showroom, the two most important things to know are how many people are coming in the door and how many estimates are we writing up. And the reason why is that years ago, if you would have asked me, does your team write up many estimates? I would have said, yeah. And then we started measuring it, and it was literally like 17%. And this wasn't just anyone walking in. This was people walking in looking for a fireplace, and we were writing up estimates for 17% of them. Well, once we started measuring that, we knew, and we were able to grow that eventually to average around 80%. And that changed absolutely everything. So I really think on your weekly heartbeat report, it should have how many customers came in the door this week. And gosh, if you can compare it to this week last year, or even just compared to the week prior, that's a great place to start. So maybe for your first year, until you're not able to compare year over year, but just compare it to last week. We had 30 people come in last week. We had 20 people come in this week. Well, now I know something. Okay, we're working with less. Okay, so now we can start to look at how many estimates are being written up. How does that sound so far, Grant?
I think that sounds amazing. Keep going.
Okay, cool.
Keep going.
Okay, so we start with foot traffic, And then we go to our estimates that are written up. Next, what we do is I want to look at follow-ups, and then I want to look at backlog. So follow-ups for a salesperson, how many customers did they reach back out to that week? And you can see, even when I shared the Wi-Fi scoreboard earlier, this is exactly what we're tracking. We don't have a showroom, so demos booked. That's kind of like how many estimates were written up, right? Now, the next metric that we track in Wi-Fi is follow-ups. And Sam is a ninja. I've never met anybody like him when it comes to how thorough and good he is at follow-up. But Sam's goal is 10 follow-ups per week. He just did 15 last week, so it was in my head. But if I know how many people are coming in, I know of those, let's just say 10 people coming in, 8 of them are getting estimates. And I know that my team is making 20 follow-up calls per week or emails per week. I am going to start to trust the results that happens with that. That's a machine where those are lead measures that over time will start to pay themselves out. How do you track follow-ups? There's a lot of different ways. Again, if you want to get really, really like basic with it, I don't care. Have your salespeople just keep a checkbox by their desk. Just literally write down the customer's name, what their product is, and the date you followed up. And at the end of every week, they turn it in. Now, you can use a CRM system that stands for Customer Relationship Management that can track that stuff for you. What we do for our Wi-Fi partners, we have like a Wi-Fi CRM that gives a dashboard of like the sales pipeline stage, when they talk to the client last, and it will tally for you, that follow-up number. But you can do this manually. Other CRMs will have ways to do it as well. But the estimates written up and the customer coming into the showroom is the front end of my funnel. The follow-ups is working the customer through the funnel, and then eventually that leads to a backlog. So we're tracking foot traffic, sales backlog, estimates written up, follow-ups, and that will lead. Did I already say backlog in there? Maybe I did, but
I don't
anyway,
think so.
foot traffic, estimates written up, follow-ups, and then that leads to backlog. So
Yeah.
A backlog, I didn't know this metric until I went to Fireside Home Solutions 10 years ago, and it blew my mind. But just like you said, Grant, this is your metric of deposits or of sales. When a customer comes in and places a deposit, and it doesn't matter whether the deposit is 5%, 95%, or 100%. When they pay for any part of a product and the order is not fulfilled, the entire value of that job goes into your backlog. So customer comes in, I take a 50% deposit on a $5,000 wood stove. That entire $5,000 job goes in my backlog. It's not fulfilled yet. We still need to install it. We still need to order it. We still need to get paid on the back half of it. But that customer's committed. It's predictive revenue. And as a salesperson, that's what I want to motivate behavior, because as a salesperson, I can't, if someone tells me, if I'm in a retail showroom right now and they're like, Tim, we want you to sell $100,000 this month. I'll look at my watch and go, okay, so how far out are we on installations? And they say we're 7 weeks. And I'll say, okay, go fly a kite. Because even if I sell it all now, we can't install it. There's nothing I can do to move the needle on that invoice number. Or there's very little I can do because we're so reliant on installation. Backlog is different. If you say, Tim, add $100,000 to your backlog, I can do that. There's no barriers. So whenever I work with salespeople, I pay commission based on invoice sales, but I will incentivize and bonus and all kinds of things for backlog, because backlog is the mechanism that they have direct control over to move. Again, commission dollars are only paid on the invoiced because maybe they cancel, maybe it falls out.
Exactly.
That money doesn't go to the business until it gets invoiced out. But this is really powerful. And I have another example. Is it okay if I show that, Grant?
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely have some comments I
I'll
want to
give you
make, just so you know.
But why don't you make the comments? Yeah, you make the comments.
Well,
so I get this going.
I think of a few things. So first of all, Danny asked about website communication, and is that considered foot traffic? And Danny, you read my mind, or you like know what I'm going through, because a lead, a phone call, an email, web lead, we would put that in a CRM and have that be a lead. Foot traffic is a lead, but not all foot traffic is a lead, because I sell rubs, I sell fuel, I sell all these different things. But if they're a value swing, it turns into a lead. So I just wanted to kind of answer that. Second of all, the foot traffic is pretty simple. Sometimes the honor code, there's some very simple ways. The power is in the data at first. So just start collecting it. Then you'll eventually have enough to start reviewing it. But it really correlates to advertisements, and it's just a stepping stone. So you send out invites and advertisement. How many people are coming through your door? Because your showroom is your asset. Your salespeople need your showroom and the people in it. You send out invites to get them in there. Then when you're tracking estimates, how many of those people did we actually get through the problem solving scenario in sales, and give them a solution and give them a price that it goes along with that solution? It
Yeah.
continues to perpetuate itself. And then the follow-up tracking it, we don't pursue. So every part of this is kind of taking people through and just managing the accountability of it in a simple way. Now it's all on the honor system, but what you get is people to buy into that because they enjoy it. You have an indicator, and then they all of a sudden understand why and see the results, and it allows you to grow pretty quick.
Yeah, that's so good, Grant. I'm glad that you said it. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple different scoreboards here. So these are scoreboards. I'm going to get in trouble for this. We're in the next, hopefully, week and a half about to start automating these reports to all of our Wi-Fi partners on like a weekly basis. And it's a company report and then a team report. So you can look at this though and just rip off everything. You can try to do it yourself, and that's what the point of me sharing this is. So this is an example of a company sales report, right? Our total company backlog. All these numbers are totally fictitious. I created a company called Joe Stoves, right? So at Joe Stoves, our backlog right now is $437,000. Now, just to Danny's point, we do break out new estimates that came from the website versus new estimates our team has written up. I think that's very good to separate those two. How many total follow-ups did we make that week? 11. How many appointments scheduled? 26, right? So are those numbers good or bad? Well, you can talk about that as a team. Again, this is a report that we generate, and you can compare that to the report from the week before. Are we up? Are we down? And then we break down the split between gas, wood, electric, and pellet. So that's an example of how this can look at a high-level company setting, but you can also break it down by team member. So if our backlog is 437, okay, which team members are contributing towards that the most? Again, this is not invoiced numbers. This is backlog. Invoiced is great to track, and I'm all for that. But on a week in, week out basis with your sales team, I would really focus on backlog. And, what I would do when I was in retail is our goal would be to get the backlog so high that I could go complain to the installation manager and say, when are you going to get this stuff in for me? Right. But unless that backlog is high, I've got no ground to stand on. So we would operate everything based on backlog. New estimates. Okay. Tim, low man on the totem pole, he's only written up 5. Matt Bradley wrote up 10. Gosh, Sam, 12. Oh, Jessica Reed, 12. These numbers are all fictitious. They don't even correlate to the report up above it. But, you see follow-ups, 6, 8, 12, 20. Okay. Close rate. That is a way to really start to understand how things are moving. And this report is, I would put this in front of your team every single week and like literally post it somewhere publicly in your business where everybody can see it. I think that these are measures. Again, if we have our new estimates of this many are coming in, we have follow-ups as well. Like maybe there's one week where a team member's new estimates are very low, but their follow-ups are sky high. Well, they could be intentionally working on spending time to mine through their CRM and their customer database as opposed to adding more to it. That's great, right? But maybe another week they say, you know what? I've been following up a lot, and I'm actually going to be going all in on getting new estimates out. These numbers start to tell a story, and that's why I wanted to share that.
Yeah, they give intentionality to your team as well, where to start, what to work on, where they're, lacking. It gives them an understanding of their job and makes them more effective.
Yeah. There's 2 more things on this report that I want to talk about, Grant, and I'll kick it to you, and then we can wrap it all up. So you also track inventory, and what was it exactly? It was units per manufacturer. Is that it?
Yeah. So we have two categories, showroom and warehouse, because we do want to delineate what we have in inventory. But every week we have on our heartbeat report exactly the units we have in stock of each manufacturer, a total of each manufacturer, and then a total of all that's in the warehouse and all that's in the showroom. And it tells you through the season, is your inventory going down? Are you selling units that you have? Are you ordering more units? It gives you a lot of indicators. It tells you how many you have on your showroom. Sometimes we have a closeout area. Right now we do, with maybe 8 or 9 units that we're a little bit long on, which seems silly to say this time of year, but we are, and we have them in closeout. So my inventory on the showroom went up to maybe 10, went up 10 units. And it's just good to know. You'll see over a couple week period of time, one manufacturer just sitting there and not moving, not up, not down. And you need to look into that. So there's just little things that it tells you, but it's really good to understand exactly how many units you have it in of each manufacturer at any given time.
Yeah, so I mean, you could say, you guys sell Enviro, Cozy Heat, a number of other brands. So you could say, okay,
Yeah,
so Enviro, we've got what, 55 units in the warehouse. We have 14 on the showroom floor. Cozy Heat, we've
exactly.
got, 40 in the warehouse and, 12 on the showroom floor. Grant, I know that you have a few more units in the warehouse than this right now, but
Yeah.
but the whole thing is that you have an idea of
Well,
where is this at? Yeah, go for it.
it's so true. And honestly, for me, as I've removed myself more and more from the day-to-day of the business, I've depended on the heartbeat report more and more. And so, little things like I'm meeting with the manufacturer rep and he's like, "How many units do you have on the floor for us?" I don't know. I haven't been in it. But I pull this heartbeat report out and I can tell him exactly how many units I've had on the floor for the last 10 years every single week. Now, sometimes I'm shocked. And what's really cool about this heartbeat report is I would say I have X amount of this manufacturer, but my sales team has kind of changed some things up with me in the mix, but not remembering every single thing. And all of a sudden it's a lot lower than what I thought, or a lot more. So it really gives you those indicators as you step away from more of the day to day and work on your business more. It gives you that stuff that keeps you in touch with your business.
Yeah, so good. And again, going back to this, how long does it take? Well, whoever's in charge of your warehouse, make their weekly report every week. Just count how many units do we have of, brand X or brand Y, and then go through the showroom. I mean, that doesn't take long.
It's
That's something that
and
can be
you're
done.
and it doesn't even matter how long it takes. Like, this is what I'm telling you, that manual labor of going through the warehouse, going through your showroom and actually counting them, not the 1 week, but the second week, the third week. I can't tell you how much you gain, how much
Oh,
you
it
learn.
starts to. I
Like,
mean, yeah, starts to
oh,
tell you a
it
story.
tells you everything. And if you're counting the same units over and over again, they're top of mind. Doing it yourself, whether it's putting together the metrics, learning and doing it just manually, can give you so much positive information that helps you understand what you're doing and how you're doing it, and gives you the ability to maybe pivot and make changes to do it
Yeah,
better.
yeah. Okay, final thing, and then we're gonna wrap this up. You have a section of weather and events.
Yeah. I do. So, our business is very seasonal, and a lot of it is due to weather. And we look to understand what our sales are telling us, what our metrics are telling us. Well, one of the biggest indicators in our business, whether we like it or not, is what's the weather. So, what we put on our heartbeat report is what was the average high that week and what was the average low that week. It's amazing how it can give you some relief when things start to really slow down. Well, you look at it, it's been 48 when the average temperature is normally 32, or when it gets really cold, or we see past numbers of weeks really cold. It allows you to anticipate some things. So weather is a big part of it. The other thing is you're doing different things through the year, whether it's advertising, whether it's in-store events. We do a barbecue fest. We do different things in the store that will bring more people in. There's things that happen like COVID. There's things that happen like Omicron right now that need to be reported on. There's accidents that happen. There's people that are out sick that all play a role in these metrics. So if you have a weather section, it tells you a lot of where your demand is coming from, and really just either is in line with the numbers, or sometimes presents an anomaly you have to look into. But the events and the summary at the top, just documenting kind of what happened that week, just gives you so much insight into, oh, that makes sense, or ooh, wait, I got to really look into this. We advertised
Yeah.
like crazy. The weather was cold, but our numbers are half of what they were last year when we didn't even do that and we had cold weather. Okay, there's an
Yeah.
indicator. I need to pay
Yeah.
attention to that. Yeah, so weather and
Yeah.
events are crucial, although very simple and easy metrics. Absolutely
Yeah.
crucial.
And so to put a bow on this, if you think about it, we've talked about 3 different areas of your business. We've talked about you have an install part of the report, and I would say install and service, they're 2 different departments, but the things that are true for install, you'll also track those for service. You have your service
Yeah.
manager do it, or your service technician if you're a smaller company. You have a
Yep.
sales section of your report, right? Foot traffic, backlog, estimates, follow-ups. You have a section for inventory. You have a section for just notes, events, weather. Man, that combined with your feel is going to give you a really accurate understanding of what's going on. And we've talked about this, Grant, that this is truly the most important thing a leader can do, period. It's the most
Yep.
important thing.
Yep.
I mean, your company is a car driving on a highway. And if you're not doing this, you are asking all of your employees and team members whose hopes and dreams and retirement and income and livelihood is based on your decision making, and you are literally putting on a blindfold and asking them to get in the car with you. Like, the most important thing you can do is you can take off the blindfold. Now, you can go too far in, spending all your time on data and never doing other things that you need to do. But what we've talked about today, it does not take a lot of time. It takes some commitment up front, but as you get this going, I mean, I would think every part of this report, I mean, even going to sales, like, okay, how do I figure out my team member's backlog? Well, run an open orders report per team member, right? I mean, that's all that it is. That tells you what their backlog is right there. But better yet, have your team members do it. They know how to do it. Like, so that every single one of these can be done easily. And I know, Grant, kind of tip in our hand, the first, I believe, 4 episodes of our upcoming podcast season starting in March are going to be diving into some of these key metrics to take a look at. So we're going to dive deeper on this. But I mean, Grant, am I speaking out of turn to say that this is the most important thing a leader can do?
It is. I mean, Tim, we've seen it so many different times. We have there's so many of us, and I am a part of this, and you're a part of this. We all struggle. We all are still figuring it out. But there is certain things we can do to help ourselves. And if you find yourself as a leader and you're asking yourself, how do I do this? How do I understand and run this business? You have to equally share your time. You have to understand things you have no idea about, and how you do it is the heartbeat report. And all I can say, and I can relate to how difficult the putting the important in front of the urgent is. It's impossible for us today. I'm not telling you it's easy. I'm not telling you to drop that customer, to not call that person back. What I am telling you, though, is the heartbeat report, if done consistently on a weekly basis, it's a solution to you figuring out how to run your team, run your department, or run your business. And it can be any of the metrics that we talked about today. It could be just a few of them to start and build from there. And really, if you're going to commit to it, you have to 100% commit to it, because doing it halfway and having a halfway completed report is not going to do you anything. It's just going to waste your time.
Yeah. I think the challenge, 4 metrics. Out of everything we talked about today, you can watch this video again, pick 4. And after you get that for a few weeks, throw one more on, right? There's ways to do this, but you have to start somewhere. Grant, we talked about this last week, but in the month of May, we are going to be running 2 workshops to go super, super deep on this. So we're going to be running a Fire Time workshop in Seattle, Washington, May 1st through 3rd. And then we're going to be running an East Coast workshop that's going to be in Massachusetts from May 8th to 10th. And we're going to take 3 days. And literally, by the end of it, you will have built out a heartbeat report for your company. And actually, as we built this workshop, and you've heard us talk before about the 10-step execution process. I mean, Grant, the purpose of that execution process was to populate a heartbeat report. Like, it actually started with the heartbeat report. The execution process is built to start to feed this thing, and it becomes symbiotic where they work off of each other. But we're going to go deep on that. We do have a promo that's going on. If you are going to sign up between now and the end of January, you can get $400 off a single attendee, $800 off of 2 attendees, and you can sign up at itsfiretime.com/workshop. There is an online version as well if your company's not able to make it and travel. But I mean, that's going to be the spot where we can dive really deep on this, and you can walk out having built this and know that you're doing it right and sustainably.
Yeah, in these short 60 minutes, we get to talk a lot of theory, and theory is hard to apply to your individual businesses. What's so exciting about the workshop is the ability to work intimately with you all to solve those problems within your business and actually give you concrete metrics for your business and whatever else it is to go home and prosper with.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I was checking inside the Firetime Network. We have a winner. And Grant, you're very familiar with this person. It is Michael Vercruzzi from AES. He had an awesome post with a scorecard of metrics. And Michael, good job, man. We're going to make sure that you get this Yeti, and we need a picture of it for the Firetime magazine.
I love it, Michael. I'll get it out tomorrow. I know where to find you.
Yeah, you do. Hey, speaking of the Firetime magazine, if this Power Hour has been helpful for you, you got to check out the Firetime magazine. No excuses. It's 100% free. And starting in January now, it's available in a digital format and audio. So literally, if you go to thefiretimemagazine.com or itsfiretime.com/ I think it's subscribe. It's at the bottom here. You can get that magazine. And I mean, seriously, every single issue is going to be like 5 or 6 of these Power Hours where you can just use that content in your team meetings over and over and over to grow. But we're hoping that you're able to consume that content as well, because it's only by, you got to fill your mind with the right stuff. If you're sitting there like zoning out, just listen to like stand-up comedy all the time. I'm not totally against that, but man, like your brain should be filled with things that are going to help you. And very often, rather than like intentionally picking things either to enjoy or to pour into us, we just try to distract ourselves. And the hope is that the magazine is something that is really helpful. So guys, I hope you have an amazing rest of the week. Our next Power Hour is actually going to be when is it? February 17th. And yeah, we normally try to do them on the second Thursday of the month, but we're going to skip because of the International Builder Show. And so February 17th, we're going to be talking about turning your company into a sales machine. I'm a little excited about that one.
Yeah. I'll just let you go.
Yeah, just tell me when to stop.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. Grant, good to see you, man. I appreciate you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
All right. See everybody.
Bye.